So we've taken the Datsun on a few test drives. The oil cooler fitting on the passenger side, which is this guy right here, was leaking more oil than when we took it out. We at one point took the line apart and tried to push this pin back in, and it did go in further, but then we put it back
up in your ass with the resurrection. Is the group harder than an erection that shows no affection?
Together, it actually leaked even more oil. So we replaced that fitting and stopped that oil leak. The other 90 coming off the oil cooler does have a very, very slight leak as well, but I got the fitting for it. We did go to Motoblot the day before yesterday. And on the way, the tack stopped working. And sometimes when you kind of jiggle some of these wires, it would start back up. So what I found, this guy right here is not soldered, it's just twisted on there. It's like the same, you got a crimp in the same wire right here, and then this is probably twisted together as well. So I'm going to take and solder all of that. Before that issue, we were driving it through the park, we got to the other side, and it just started losing power. And all of these wires you see with the white heat shrink, I resoldered them because they were either bad crimps or just twisted together. Also, you won't be able to see it, but the brake light switch, the wire for it was just, or I guess it was the positive, I believe, for it was just pushed into the little hole where it's supposed to be soldered on the terminal. So I soldered that as well, even though that wasn't a problem. But the ignition where I soldered, where's it? This, yeah, this right here. This is actually what's powering up I believe like most of the relays for the fans, the fuel pump, and that kind of stuff. And the ignition, or the positive for the coils, was also pulled from there as well. So when it started dying, either we were losing fuel or losing, fuel pressure because the pump wasn't running, or we were losing ignition or something, or a combination of all of them. I'm not sure.
With the radar, sir.
What's wrong with it?
I've lost the bleeps, I've lost the sweeps, and I've lost the creeps.
But that is straightened out now. We're not having that issue, but I'm gonna cut all this extra wire and resolder for the tack, and hopefully that straightens it out. So in pulling the tack out and looking, I found another place here where yet again they were just kind of twisted. The wires were just kind of twisted together. So I'm going to solder that, and then right here as well I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to solder that. And so far we've also removed like this much extra wire that's not needed. Alright, so I got the tack all straightened out. It works now. I cranked it up and tried it. But this boost gauge was just zip tied and held right here. And now I've decided, even though we're going to replace all this eventually,
Wanna know if he still got it. They say raps change. They wanna know.
at least for now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is pull the tack all the way out in this plate that they've used to mount it in. I'm going to take and mount the boost gauge like over here, because I don't know, it's only going to be temporary, but it'll still be better than the way it is with the zip tie. Got the hole cut for the boost gauge, got that in. Obviously had to take the tack all the way out and cut my solder joints I just made. So we are about to solder that back in and put the plate back. And no more zip tie boost gauge, but whenever I eventually redo all this, it'll look even better, hopefully. This is just more, like I was saying, this is more just temporary. Alright, I got the tack back in and it's working again, and I went ahead and moved the boost gauge because it was just being held on by a zip tie. So I cut that stupid piece of plastic and just went ahead and mounted it. So maybe Kelly will want to go for a drive.